Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of According to Sacha Podcast. You know, we're here with you on Thursday nights, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another amazing guest. Every show, we have some awesome people who are doing some amazing things and impacting their communities, impacting the world through their business, through their creative, business, and as well as speakers, being authors, and so forth. So I am so pleased to say that I have another guest tonight. Her name is Denise Thomas. And I'm telling you guys, if you are a parent of college-bound teens, you need to tune in right now. Hopefully you're already watching. If you know other people who are, have them to tune in as well, because she is a debt-free college coach, okay? And the founder of Get Ahead of the Class LLC. And so we definitely want you to have opportunity to ask your questions and everything there is to, get your students or your teens ready and prepared for college scholarships and everything else that you can get out of it. And before I bring Miss Denise up, I am going to talk to you a little bit about some things I have going on. If you are in the 757 area or the surrounding areas, we have a leadership brunch on Saturday here in Hampton, Virginia, and I'm one of the panel speakers along with some amazing panelists. And Dr. Obiama Martin and Barbara H. Holmes are both sponsoring this event. It is called Selfies to Service Leadership Brunch, and I definitely want to see you there. Make sure if you're following already, I know that I've already posted the links. I will post it and share it again, so that way you can register to attend. And then I will drop it also in the show notes or the comments here for the According to Sacha Podcast. So if you're watching right now, it'll just be easy for you to just go ahead and click register, and I'll see you on Saturday. And then also, if you are interested in international investment property, yes, your girl is just like, we have partnerships, we have things that we're doing here in the States as well as the Dominican Republic. And with Lenovi Real Estate, there are some opportunities for you to get involved in investment property. So if you've always been thinking about wanting to do an Airbnb or wanting to have a vacation home or combine the two, right, and make some money off of your vacation property, then this is the place to, make sure you do that. So if you're interested, we do have a deal, a promo right here going on, you guys. $500 to reserve. There are plenty of properties that are available. You get a free trip. They will take care of your airline ticket or give you $2,000 in cash. I don't know about you. I would take $2,000 in cash. So if you're interested, make sure you reach out to me and I'll get you all the details and get you all set up. You do have to make that travel before May 15th. So like I said, if you're ready to go ahead and do that, we can go ahead and get you started. And I've launched my business subscription service. Okay. So it's VIP Suite, Business Suite. It is my subscription service. It's a business coaching subscription service. I wanted to do something. I am so tongue-tied tonight, you guys. I don't know why. But anyway, I want to do something for the small business owners who are considered as the disadvantaged business owners. Those who are, tight on a budget at times. You may have, you're not there to really hire a team to help you. But in this, we have 4 different tier levels that can help you. And we have a 6-month white label program. So if you are interested in starting a business, we'll help you from the beginning to the end throughout the process of business development. That is the LLC formation and all your legal documents, as well as business planning, marketing, the whole slew, you name it. We'll build it for you and then give you coaching services along with it to make sure that you are implementing the right steps that we have given you so you can be successful and have a sustainable business. So definitely email me at info@swimgtgroup.com. And then I'll also put the link in the comments. But I am going to go ahead and just get ready to bring up Miss, if I get this overlay off, Denise Thomas right after this message, you guys. Entrepreneurship, small business, is something that everybody would love to do, making their own money. And this is what we will be talking about on According to Sacha. Good evening, Denise. How are you?
Well, hey, Miss Sacha, I am doing fabulously.
Oh, I love that. Fabulously on a Thursday evening. And I know that you are ready to get into this conversation, not just an interview, this conversation. And I am too. But I want you to start off and tell the world, who is Denise Thomas?
Well, I am a TEDx speaker, international best-selling author, and creator of Cracking the Code to College. I work with parents in the U.S. primarily, with kids that are middle school, high school, and college-age kids, to help them develop their teens' personal brand that colleges and scholarship committees will pay for. Both of my kids were homeschooled all the way through high school. And between the two of them, they attended college on 17 scholarships, totaling more than $199,000. They got 4 years of college debt-free with cash left over. So they got paid to go to college.
I love that. I love that. And I just love what you said about the student's personal brand. How did you, like, what was it about your seeing your kids and doing what you did for them to get their scholarships and so forth? What is it about a student's personal brands that colleges want them to be there?
Well, I'll tell you, Sacha, we are in dire straits as a country where our families get into debt with colleges. Well, we get into debt on anything these days, but college is a biggie. And the problem I've been seeing is that we're all doing the same things. We're following the same advice, and we're doing what our friends have done, our neighbors have done, what our relatives did. And here's what I found out. If you do what everyone is doing, you're going to get what everyone else is getting, college debt. So you have to do it differently. So we start there. And one of the things that makes this different is that it does start with the parents and your beliefs in what you believe to be true about the high school to college process. I don't take on just, every family. There are families I will turn down. And the reason is this: my goals and your goals have to be the same for your family. If we are misaligned, I will happily refer you to someone else. But one of the things that I learned early in the process with my own kids, when doing the research, when my daughter was just starting high school, my best friends said, Denise, you're starting too early. Wait till junior year for that, because that's what we're told. It's what we've been told for decades. But in my research, I found that there are kids graduating debt-free on scholarships, plural, not just one scholarship, but multiple scholarships. And they're doing this because they're not following the status quo. They're not following the rules that have been set before us for the last 3 decades. They're doing things differently. And one of the things is to plan accordingly. These kids were starting sometimes as early as middle school in making some progress, some inroads with creating their personal brand, with understanding what colleges are looking for, et cetera. Now, I had one mom who said, oh, but you're putting too much pressure on these kids. What if they're neurodivergent? Okay. So I roll my eyes because people think that you don't know what you're talking about because you don't have that problem. You want to bet? One of my children is ADHD with a learning disability. He followed the same strategies as the other child, and they both ended up with a lot of cash. So the deal is this: we are putting less stress because we're not waiting till the last minute, right? So that's one of the important things. But one of the things that we need to understand today is that your teen has a resume. Believe it or not, they have a resume. Their resume is their online activity.
That's good.
My daughter was, I think, maybe 12 years old. And one of the mentors that she was being trained with told the class, and of course, my daughter's in her 30s now, so this has been a while. It's been a hot. But even then, she told them to be careful about what they put on the internet.
Yeah.
You know, back in my day, it was passing notes in class. Be careful what you wrote down.
Right.
Now it's be careful what ends up on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of college freshmen who had been accepted to Ivy League schools.
Mm-hmm.
And within a month of classes starting, their acceptance was rescinded because of something the college found on their internet profile somewhere. And in one of the cases, they had actually gone back, I kid you not, 2 years.
Oh my God.
The child was only 16 years old. You're going to do screwy things at age 16, right?
Right. Right.
So one of the things that you have to consider and that we do in my program is to evaluate with parent eyes, what is your child's digital footprint? Remove anything that is not in alignment with their character and their values and who they want to be seen in the world.
Yes. And I think that's very important because then you have that conversation with them early on. And in this day and time, you know, I know at one point, I would give it a few years. Like, I know with my daughter, when she was younger, I really, you know, especially when Facebook first came out and everything, I'm like, no, you're not going to get on Facebook or anything like that. So it's like now these days, kids have Facebook pages or TikToks and something else, Instagram and whatever else is out there, you know, at an early age of like maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, or depending on, you know, what they're doing. And now they're like mini influencers in some degree. And, you know, it's really good to think about that and have that conversation with your child as far as what they want to do, where they want to go, what are their goals, and then make sure you're driving that along with the digital footprint as well. That's so amazing how you really wrap that up in your program, and you really having helping people to really think outside the box and, like you said, go against the status quo. And so what are some tips that you would give parents with helping their kids monitor their digital footprint and really being not a strong parent, like really just want to micromanage the child, but how can they do it in a way that still invites the child to want to do it themselves as well?
Well, I'll tell you this. First of all, honestly, Sacha, it all begins with that parent-child or parent-teen relationship.
Mm.
Parents, I tell you, every now and then, a parent will say something on the internet. My child is doing XYZ, XYZ, whatever. What do I do? How do I help them? Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, my very first thought is, it's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
You trained them that way. Your kids do not come out of the womb behaving that way. For the vast majority of children that are misbehaving, that are acting out or what have you, you are part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not to say that you are the blame, that you're, you know, messing with your kid. That's not what I mean at all. But as parents, we didn't come away with a psychology degree before we had kids.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of psychology in raising children that we have not been taught.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, some of it starts early with just understanding that if your child is misbehaving at Walmart, you know, if they're little, you know, 5 years old, 7 years old, and they're misbehaving at Walmart, you stop them and you ask, do you see anyone else doing that in the store?
Mm-hmm. Right.
No, ma'am. Well, maybe that's not the way to behave in the store. It's training them to look outside of who they are
Mm-hmm.
to what the rest of the world is saying is appropriate behavior or not.
Yeah.
So a lot of that relationship does start earlier. If you have a poor relationship with your teenager, I'm sorry, you're going to have a hard time having this discussion and them not thinking that, you know, mom is trying to be a helicopter parent. But if you can show them or just hand them certain resources that say, hey, if you have some time, read that.
Yeah.
Then you're putting it on them to start thinking about their future. Kids don't think about their future. Kids think about today. What are we having for dinner, Mom? That's it. They haven't even thought about tomorrow, half of them, right?
Right.
So you've got to have conversations that start talking about the future, and they need to understand that there are certain things that will stick with them. The internet is forever. You know, one of the things that I mention is, and again, we're talking about literally 1/10 of the Cracking the Code to College course, okay?
Right.
But it's an important piece. That's why it's first, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we've got this Snapchat thing where the photo goes away in like seconds, or a minute, whatever it is. I don't have
Right.
Snapchat, but whatever. And young ladies will maybe send an inappropriate photo to their boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and it supposedly goes away. All right, listen, honey, it's not worth anything to him unless he shows it to his friends. He has taken a screenshot. It's all he needs is that second.
Yeah.
Okay. You really have to advocate for yourself. And so when it comes to reviewing your social media, and by the way, there's more than 100 social media platforms out there.
Yeah.
There are platforms that you don't think about as social media, like Pinterest, but it is still social media.
Right.
And there are other platforms that are social media that are quite nefarious. So please do not go Google search a list of social media platforms and start searching for your kid on each one, because some of these, they are not appropriate. I don't think even for adults. But you're going to have a relationship with your children that they will have an opportunity to list their social media that they've been on in the last couple of years, even if they've, MySpace, you'd think isn't still around. Trust me, it's still on the internet.
Right.
So if you were there and you have stuff there, you should probably go check it out. Just saying, or delete it. Because when I first learned about colleges, not all of them, but colleges that will seek out your teens' social media, and sometimes the parents. Wow. I mentioned it to my husband. He said, "Oh, heck yeah." He said, "Our company has experts on retainer who search the employees' social media." Now, why would they do that? Same reason colleges do. Because when you are part of their university, when you are part of their company, what you do on your off time still represents that company or that college. Like it or not, wearing the t-shirt or not, you still represent them. And your kids need to understand, your young adults need to understand this. You are an at-will employee. The company does not have to make a comprehensive list of things that would disqualify you from being an employee and get you fired. You are literally, it says it in the contract, if you read it, that you are an at-will employee.
Right.
What that means is they can fire you anytime they feel like for no reason at all. And on the flip side, you can quit anytime you want to with no reason at all. So it goes both ways.
Right.
But when we're evaluating your teen's social media, the very first step is making a list of your teen's character traits and values. Who are you? And then when you're evaluating the social media, you're evaluating each one of those posts, each one of those likes or follows, each comment you've made on someone else's social media,
Right.
and evaluating, is this in alignment with my character and values that I want the world to see? And if it's not, delete it.
Right.
Right? So when you first start this, because your kids have been on social media for a while, you're going to use a spreadsheet and you're going to take your time. It's going to be methodical. It's going to take time to do. But once you have, quote, caught up And I ask you to start about 2 years and come forward.
Okay.
At that point, you're caught up. Now you can do it about every 6 months. And if you're doing it with your child, you're training your child to see with a discerning eye, right? I remember back when my son was in social media, and somebody that he had friended was actually someone that was a teacher of his. And the friend had people that were posting or commenting on the friend's social media posts, but using inappropriate language. Well, you have to realize that falls back on you, because that's your friend, and your friend is obviously not very discretionary with the friends he's, friendshipping with. And those things come across your feed. Is that something you really want? Right? So start there. And I remember once with my daughter, there was someone, again, a friend of a friend, who was using poor language and saying things that were very inappropriate. And I mentioned to my daughter, I said, your little brother is on that same social media platform, and he could easily see that, because your stuff and this woman's comments is going to show up in his feed. I said, also, your grandfather is on that same social media platform, and he could see it. So choose your friends wisely. Yes. Social media you're not getting points really for getting the most people, quote, who follow you. No one flipping cares. Okay. This is not real life.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway.
And I think that's the problem, because this whole digital world with social media has made it more of a reality, a virtual reality, that when like us coming up, our friends was always at down the house, down the street, in the next neighborhood, whatever, and we went outside, we did this, we called, we did everything. Now, social media, it has its pros and cons. And that's one of the cons, because it makes you feel like that everything that goes on online is your world. And it's more to your world than just the digital part of it. And, so I really do like how you start off with that, because it really does make a big difference. And, and for everyone that's listening, watching, this is something that you really don't think about in terms of colleges and how they're going to look at you, and everything. And then, so I do want to double back, because also you had mentioned about how you really do start off early, instead of waiting until junior, senior year. The kids are stressed because they got to write essays, they got to do this and do that. And you're stressed because you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do the FAFSA. I got to make sure they have the money. What my check account look like? You're thinking about things that if you hadn't prepared or wasn't able to prepare, sometimes we're able to do it ourselves. Sometimes we need the help. There's always get the free help and the money if it's there for you. And so, and it makes me think about, all the stories we hear about kids who are, geniuses in a sense, and they are 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years, and they're already getting scholarships for Ivy League colleges who want them already before they even get into their freshman year in high school. So I really do like the fact that you're talking about how to start off early, doing the research, looking at the colleges, identifying what your kid really want, what your teen really wants to do, or your child, your preteen, and then build from there, and doing your social media research and all those good things. I would say this, like my daughter, she's 28 now. And, I've always been the type of parent that says, okay, I'm not going to put my will on her, what I think I want her to do. I want to know what she wants to do. And it wasn't anything that we talked about these things, but also at the same time, I still let her, just use her own imagination about it. And there was a movie that she watched. It was called Something That the Lord Made. And it was about the doctor who helped what they call blue babies, helped them to breathe because of the heart issues that they had that caused them to be blue and the lack of oxygen when they were born. She was so into that movie. And she said, Ma, I want to, and she's like 4, I think she was like 4 years old when she saw that movie, 4 or 5. And she said, Mommy, I want to help blue babies. I want to help blue babies. That movie stood out to her so much. that from then, that point on, she wanted to be a doctor. And then
That is
everything that
fabulous.
she did, she wanted to go forth and everything. And I'm like, okay, well, she's going to do the doctor thing. I want to support her. We're going to look into everything. And then when she got into high school, she was at a high school where they had, the programs where you can go to, you have your medical classes and your nursing and everything like that. And they teach you these things. And so one day she came back, she said, I don't think I want to be a doctor anymore. And I said, well, what are you going to be? She said, I'm going to be a nurse. And she said, and then I'm going to be a nurse practitioner because that's almost the same level, because they had a nurse practitioner to come to the school and talk about the opportunities. So my daughter right now is a RN. She's working as a nurse. She's in the operating the surgery, rooms and operating. She's operating OR nurse. That's what she is. And so, but she just graduated with her bachelor's in nursing as well. And so she's really stayed on that track, even though it wasn't being a doctor, but it was still in the medical field. And I think that's really important for us parents to really, support your kids, because sometimes they're not going to go in the direction that you think you want them to go as far as what they're going to do with their lives, educationally and what profession. But when you support them and help them and guide them along the way, and as you said, still research the colleges, make sure their social media is intact, make sure their real life is intact, the real world, and everything, and who are they around. And as that growing and you start looking for scholarships and you're doing all the things you need to do, and then it all becomes an alignment process. And so I just love all of that. Just listening to you, I was just like, oh, wow, I went through that journey and I see it. I'm so proud and so happy with my daughter right now. And I have this joke, and I'm like, okay, are you going back to school? She said she might do her master's. I don't know. But, I'm just like, hey, it's on you. But, once they do all of that, let's talk about a little bit where, the scholarship part comes in at, how does that process just sums it all up?
Okay, so the first thing I want to mention is that early in the show, I mentioned that my kids attended college on 17 scholarships totaling almost $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of families will come up to me after I've been on a stage and I mention that, and they're like, your kids must be geniuses. My kid applied to 40 scholarships and won none. Mm-hmm. No, they're not. As a matter of fact, half of the scholarships they won, literally $100,000 worth, did not ask for GPA or test scores. Wow. It was simply writing an essay. And I want families to know that when I say start early, I mean, I don't care where you are. College scholarships begin in kindergarten. But even if you have a high school senior and you're up against that final wire thinking, we don't, where's the money coming from? It's not too late. It's never too late. As a matter of fact, college scholarships go all the way through professional school. Mm-hmm. So there's always money to be had. My mantra says, never stop looking for free cash until the last parchment is in hand. So always look for that money. Yeah. But here's the thing. You've got to start where you are. If you hear this message, start now. Do not put it off another year, another 2 years. I have people on my email list, I kid you not, their oldest child is 2 years old. Now, why would they do that? Yeah. Because they don't want to forget. Yeah. They want to be continually reminded once every couple of weeks. I do not send much in the way of emails. Once every couple of weeks, my name pops up. Oh, yeah, Denise does that. Okay, cool. Yeah. The vast majority of opportunities for scholarships for college are going to entail writing an essay. It might be one paragraph. It could be a whole page, depending on the criteria. Mm-hmm. But the reason kids don't win is two reasons. Mm-hmm. One, they're applying to the wrong scholarship. Mm-hmm. For example, if the scholarship essay is, tell me about your favorite ice cream flavor, there actually was one. Well, if your kid is lactose intolerant, this is not the essay for him.
Right.
Okay. Because I don't care how eloquently it's written, it will not win. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you think about reading a novel, I don't have a book on the table. If you think about reading a novel, the emotions that the author has as he's penning that work come through the written page to the reader. Same is true for college and scholarship essays.
Mm-hmm.
If your child's heart isn't in it, if they don't have a real opinion on that topic, if they're sitting there and it's like pulling teeth to get anything out of them on that topic,
Mm-hmm.
put it in the trash and try another one. There's 1.8 million scholarships out there. There's another one you can try.
Mm-hmm.
So choosing the wrong scholarship is problem number one.
Okay.
Problem number two, writing the wrong essay.
Mm.
One of the several topics that comes up pretty often in different ways is tell me about someone who inspires you. That could be grandma, it could be Jesus. It literally doesn't matter.
Right.
But your teenager is going to write the essay about grandma or Jesus. That's the wrong essay.
Mm.
Because the question is, tell me about someone who inspires you. That is the operative word, you. Every one of these essays should be personal. You should have life experiences, or your friend or your neighbor or relative has that life experience, something you can bring to the table that is personal.
Yeah.
It's always about you. So in your traditional 5-paragraph essay, first paragraph talks about grandma.
Mm-hmm.
Last paragraph wraps it up with grandma again.
Yeah.
Everything in between is your teenager.
That's a good one. That's really good points. Yeah. And, and one thing about the essays, you have to want to do it, and like you said, the emotion should come through the story or the penmanship of, each paragraph, each word. But your heart has to be into it too. It's like, if you're going to write the essay, that's why it's important to look early enough. Make sure you're not so close to the deadline. And then, and really feel what you're writing and really think about it and really take your time. And don't just write it because, you have to do it, but make time, or make sure your team is making that time, having that quiet time to really feel that question, to really feel how the answers are going to come out. So in that way, they can write appropriately.
Yeah. And I was asked earlier today, well, how do I motivate my team to want to do these scholarship essays?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Teenagers are completely clueless when it comes to money. They think a $35,000 job, you're going to get $2,000 a month after taxes. They think they're rich. I kid you not. So you're going to have to do the math with your teenager.
Mm-hmm.
It's adulting time. This is what it really looks like. And one of the questions that I ask my families before I bring them on, we talk about debt.
Mm-hmm.
How does your teen feel about college debt? Well, if the answer they give me is, oh, he figures everybody has college debt, so he'll probably have some too. Sorry, you're not my client.
Yeah.
Because the motivation's not there. This is work.
Mm-hmm.
This is a second job for your teenager. Now, the reason I work directly with the parent most of the time versus the teenager is because I have seen that kids that have parent support are the ones that win.
Good.
So the parent is learning directly from me, and then they're working with their teenager going forth with the assignments and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to grow closer to your child and to teach them some of these things in life that they're going to have to know going forward. Yeah. It's not just about, let me find scholarships at the end of the rainbow. Mm-hmm. I work with some financial firms, and one of them had a client who their kid was about to start college, but they had a $40,000 gap each year. Mm. He called and asked, is there anything you can do? And I said, I do not walk on water. At this point, they've made decisions that cannot be reversed. And the best you can do once your kid is already starting college is about $12,000 a year. Yeah. It's nothing to sneeze at, but it's not 40. Okay. So definitely laying that out there.
Yeah, those are really good points. And then to add to what you just said, just made me think about it. It was just like when the parent, like you're working with the parent, and the parent is working with the child, that child is not only just motivating them, but it sees that the parent is also invested, because a lot of times kids can, they're going about their way, they're in school, they're doing sports, whatever it is. Parents are working, they're doing anything. They come together. Sometimes you have dinner together, sometimes you don't, and everything. Where sometimes some kids may feel like the parents just working too much and they don't care. It's across the board. But when you have the opportunity to do that, and that child sees that you are invested and it really matters to them, it's almost like you're like when your kids are really little and they get that A on that project that you actually did versus them doing that project. Trust me, I had a lot of A's.
I love that. That is so fun.
Oh my gosh, I definitely had a lot of A's back then, but I wanted to make sure she passed, and it was like creative
Sure.
project, and I'm like, she's not gonna be as creative as I am, so let me go ahead and put this into it.
Bump it up a little bit here.
Yeah, it helped her. So she went forward doing her own projects, and I saw how creative she ended up being. And it's same scenario. So when you're working with your kids like that, they see it, but then also it gives you opportunity to review what they've written, especially if you have time there. Review it.
Yeah.
I know to this day, probably like maybe 2 years ago, my daughter believes in doing scholarships. She goes after the scholarships, even as an adult student. And I would say, her college debt is very, very, very low. It's not zero, but it's definitely not astronomical because she had scholarships, she had grants and everything. And I think she's gotten more scholarships in her adult student career than in coming out of high school. And and she asked me, even as I think she was a young adult then. She was, "Mommy, can you just review my essay to make sure it sounds right, make sure the wording is good?" And it allowed me to read it, but I know her. I know my daughter. And I'm like, won't you adjust this way? Because people are going to think a certain way if you, adjust it. So when you have as a parent, as that seasoned adult, you've been adulting for years, you have that perspective to help them rewrite maybe a sentence or change the structure around because of how the adult perspective can be. So I just really, commend you for even starting, your program and going after, like, using your own success and your children's success and making that work for so many other people. And in that way, everyone who's getting all these grand, scholarships, I hope every child who goes to graduations, supporting another family member, whatever, when they hear these students had X amount of scholarships, that's to definitely motivate them to say, I want to be the one that have over $50,000 in scholarships and so forth. So
exactly. And I do want to mention this, since you mentioned, at graduation, they'll sometimes announce the scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing though. High school graduations and the media lie through their teeth about the dollar amount of scholarships these kids are winning.
Wow.
Now, why would I say that? Because what they're doing, yes, the child literally won the local ACE hardware scholarship, the library scholarship, the scholarship from their college, and the state scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also adding up every scholarship offer from all 20, 30, 100 schools they applied to. To me, that's very disingenuous. I find that is preying on the naivety of parents.
Yeah.
But the media does it every single year. You will find an inner city child that, I don't know if it was New Orleans or this year it might be Chicago. They're going to find some kid who is a low income child, brilliant, not say he's not. Great SAT scores, great GPA, deserves everything he gets. But that child did not win $1.2 million. Okay.
That's a good one. Yeah.
You can only choose one college, and hopefully he chooses the one that gave him a full ride, because otherwise he's got to make up the difference. Yes. So that's just something to understand how the media works. And I'll be honest with you, there are consultants out there doing the same thing. So use caution. To me, my integrity is the most important thing that I have to offer. And it's important for me for parents to understand where I'm coming from
Mhm.
and how the system works so that you can learn to play the game by
Yeah.
your rules and help your child to win.
I love it. That is so wonderful. And this is such a great conversation. I think we could probably talk all night long, but
We could.
yes, this is really good. So before we go, what are some good sites, maybe like one or two, that people can go on that are like really good for searching out scholarships?
Okay, so first of all, as I mentioned, there's 1.8 million scholarships available. If you look at the number of scholarships, it's like a mountain where the
Yeah.
seniors get the most. They're at the tippy top, high school seniors.
Mhm.
One bottom of one side of that mountain is kindergarten kids. There's only one.
Okay.
That one is the Doodle for Google scholarship. It's about
Okay.
$1,000, and I don't know how many they give away every year, but it's a bunch because I've Googled it to see how many scholarships they give out and have never been able to figure it out.
Oh, wow.
But they go all the way through seniors as far as scholarships they give away.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side of the mountain at the bottom is professional school, law school, medical school, et cetera, vet school.
Right.
What that means is that there's only one scholarship for kindergarten. There's only a few hundred scholarships available for professional school kids. And you kind of come back up that mountain and the number starts to increase, whether you're a high school senior towards senior year or again, going towards senior year, but it's backwards now on that side where there's college students. So that's the number that's available. Unless your child is a high school senior, Google is your friend.
Okay.
Literally doing that search that says my kid is in, I'm looking for college scholarships for, name the grade level of your kid.
Yeah.
Because there's only about 20 for under age 13. And your kid probably only qualifies for one or two. Okay. But once your kid is starting to approach senior year, maybe even junior year, that Google search is going to turn up some scholarship databases. But there are some tricks to using the databases so that you don't get full of email spam in your inbox. So that's really important to not go get your profile on those websites immediately without talking to me first so that I can make sure you're doing this the way that doesn't get your email inbox messed up.
Absolutely.
I had a client recently that did that and was like, okay, I'm glad you did that yesterday. Go cancel it. It's called do-over. All right.
Yeah.
So, but the largest and oldest scholarship database is called FastWeb, FASTWEB. It has been around for at least 40 years, probably. Ridiculous amount of time. It has the most scholarships that are available for pretty much anyone. That is the best one to be searching for. But for high school seniors, you've also got local scholarships and your state scholarships that they should be applying for too. So it becomes, multi-pronged and a little bit of work.
Yeah.
But divvy up the work between parent and child if possible. But if your kid, if you got a stay-at-home parent that does not have a job while they're home, let me clarify that, because a lot of people today own their own businesses. If you have a stay-at-home parent and the kid has 15 AP classes, they have a job, they have community service, and they've got activities, they're not going to have a lot of time to do the searching part. So maybe that parent can do the searching part and just hand over, here's the essay prompt. This one's due in 2 weeks. Yeah. This is teamwork, people. Be a team.
That's good. And that's like the best way of closing out. Just be a team. Be a team with your children, your teens, and make it happen. Because when you do, you're helping them, but they're helping you, your pocket as well.
It's not coming out your pocket.
Exactly. I would say this before we leave. Like, I did have like just a small amount, to pay for each semester for my daughter. It was like $2,000, right? Which was nothing compared to what some other people probably had to pay. And her last semester, when she was graduating, I think it was like $2.98 was the difference. My daughter, she said,
That's
"Mommy,
wonderful.
She said, I'll pay this semester. I'm like, yeah, I bet you will. But,
I love
to
it.
know that you have, it paid, all paid. There's no debt, it's so that's why it's so important, parents, to make sure that you contact Denise Thomas and, talk with her, see if you're ready. Better yet, you've already watched this show. So you already know how to come to her so you can work with her. So in that way you could get your teens ready, and especially if you're starting out early enough. But even if it's, where we at, we're almost in May, graduation is coming up in June. If you still need help, this is the time to get with her now. Just do it. Her
Yeah.
contact information is right here on the screen, and is also in the show notes. Make sure you do that, so that way your child can be financially successful and not have to sit here and wait for the president to write off some college debt for everyone. So, Denise, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed our conversation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sasha, for having me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll be back for another episode of According to Sacha Podcast. So remember that in everything you do, command your day and be great. And I'll see you next time. Bye.